This is the first of two screencasts that will look at the structure and examination technique for the Year 1 A-Level Sociology Mock Exam. So the college have decided that during the week beginning the 11th of January 2016, students should sit a mock exam in each of their subjects, and this particular week is the second week back after the Christmas break, and the Sociology Mock Exam for Year 1 students will take place during one of your normal lesson times. Your mock exam for Sociology will be divided up into two sections. So section 1 will be based on the work that we've been doing for the Component 1 exam. It will consist of a 5-mark and a 15-mark question, and these questions will be related very closely to the themes of culture, socialisation, social control and identity, and you'll have 25 minutes to spend on this section. Section 2 of the exam paper will focus on the Component 2 work that we've been doing on research methods, and this will be a section of the paper that will consist of 2 5-mark questions and a 20-mark question, and you'll have 15 minutes to spend on this section of the paper. So in total, the length of the mock exam paper will be 1 hour and 15 minutes for both of the sections combined. Now, with any exam in any subject, it's always really important to understand the success criteria. So a key question that I want to look at first of all is this one: how do examiners assess the quality of your work? And examiners evaluate the quality of your written work using assessment objectives. And all this refers to is what the examiners who read your answers will actually be looking for. And in A-Level Sociology, there are 3 assessment objectives that examiners are looking for when they read your answers. So the first assessment objective, AO1 or assessment objective number 1, focuses on your knowledge and understanding of this particular subject. And in order to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of sociology, you've got to know about sociological theories, key terms and concepts, and also sociological evidence. What I mean by that are relevant examples and key studies. And then finally, you also need knowledge and understanding of how sociologists do research. Assessment objective number 2, or AO2, refers to application, and this is about how you use your sociological knowledge. So can you apply your knowledge of sociological theories and concepts and evidence to the question that's been set and to the real world? Also, in questions where you get an item to read, application is also about your ability to interpret some of that material and apply it in a relevant way to the question set. And then finally, we have AO3, or assessment objective number 3, which is about analysis and evaluation. And this is about your ability to go beyond a description of sociological knowledge, and it's about your ability to weigh up and make judgments about the worth of sociological knowledge. So it's about your ability to look at the strengths and weaknesses of different arguments, different theories, and different types of research. And assessment objective number 3 is normally something that examiners would only be looking for in longer essay-style questions. So it's not something that you need to worry about for shorter questions. So what I want to do in the rest of this screencast is focus on section 1 of the mock exam, and then in the second screencast I'll focus on component 2 on the research method section. Now, in terms of revision, the key things to focus on to prepare for this first section of the mock exam are the screencasts and concepts that we've explored in relation to culture, socialisation, social control and identity. So don't worry too much about the building blocks work that we did on these other concepts. These will become much more relevant to the second year topics that we're going to be doing, focus your attention on the key concepts that I've underlined. Now, the layout for the first section of the mock exam will follow the format that we used for the first two progress tests during the autumn term. And this is based on what the first section of the real component 1 exam will look like when you sit your final papers. So as you can see, there is a bit of text that you need to read. This is what we call the item. And then there are two questions. There's a 5-mark question and a 15-mark question, and you have 25 minutes in total to answer these questions. So in terms of time management, I would advise that you spend about 5 minutes writing an answer to the 5-marker, and then 15 minutes writing an answer to the 15-marker, and then you've got an additional 5 minutes that you can use to make sure that you've read the questions clearly, that you've read the item clearly, and you've thought about what you're going to write before you put pen to paper. So the 5-mark question is always going to start with the command with reference to the item. This is the item, remember, and sociological knowledge, so you can't just rely on the item. Explain the meaning of a term. So with this question, you're always going to be asked to explain the meaning of a key term that is connected to the themes of culture, socialisation, social control and identity. Going back to the assessment objectives, you get 3 marks for knowledge and understanding and 2 marks for application. So application in this question is based on your ability to interpret and apply relevant examples from your own knowledge, but also a relevant example from the item that you've got to read. To get all of the marks for the 5-mark question, you need to do the following. You need to make sure that you make 3 clear points and that one of those points refers to the item. Secondly, you need to make sure that you start your answer with a definition of the term. So it's not enough just to give examples that illustrate the concept. You need a definition and examples. If the term has 2 parts to it, make sure that you define both parts. So if the question was about agents of socialisation, you would need to explain both the idea of socialisation and also what we mean by an agent. If the question was about primary socialisation or secondary socialisation, again, you would need to explain both parts of the term. Try to link the term to other sociological words in your answer. So if you were asked to explain the meaning of the term values, try to link that to other relevant concepts such as culture and social norms. And then finally, a reminder about time management. 5 minutes on this section of the exam. So 1 paragraph of 3 or 4 sentences is all that is required for this question. So let's have a look at an example of a 5-mark question. So hit the pause button, read through the item, this bit of text, and then read through the question where you've got to explain the meaning of the term agents of socialisation. And once more, I want you to hit the pause button and read through 3 sample answers to this question about agents of socialisation. Answer A is very good and would probably get 5 marks out of 5. Remember what I said earlier about some terms having 2 parts to them? So agents of socialisation, what this candidate does is initially explain what we mean by socialisation, and then they specifically look at what we mean by agents. They connect the idea of agents of socialisation to other concepts, and they make use of the item. 5 marks out of 5, very good. Answer B is underdeveloped, it's too brief, and there are opportunities here to use sociological concepts. So if we look at the first sentence, for example, an agent of socialisation is a group of people who influence us to behave in a particular way. That could be expressed in much more sociological language. Contrast that to answer A, where they talk about the process of learning culture. That sounds much more sophisticated. Answer C again is lacking a bit of detail, and crucially what is missing from answer C is a clear definition of the concept. There is understanding demonstrated through the identification of some relevant examples, but there isn't a definition. So definitions of key terms is something that you need to learn by heart, and that's where the space retrieval practice of memorize will come into its own. When you get into the exam, you look at a key term in the question, you should immediately have a definition that you've learned using this particular tool. Let's now have a look at the longer question on this section of the paper, which is this 15-mark question. And there are 9 marks available for your knowledge and understanding on this section of the paper, and then 6 marks for application. And once again, application is about your ability to interpret and then apply relevant examples and material from the item in a way which is relevant to the question set. Now, to get maximum marks on this section of the paper, you need to make sure that in the opening paragraph you clearly explain any of the sociological terms that are used in the question. So if the question's about socialization, that needs to be defined in the opening paragraph. If the question's about identity or social control, again, these concepts need to be explained before you get into the main body of your answer. Make sure that you stick to the question set. Make sure that you show off your knowledge of key sociological terms within your answer. So again, using memorize to master those sociological terms is so important. Use specific examples to show your understanding. So if the question is about how socialization happens, use examples to illustrate that process. If the question is about how social control is maintained, use specific examples. If the question is about how identities are formed, make sure that you use specific examples. And in terms of time management, spend about 15 minutes on this section of the exam. I'm going to finish this screencast by looking at an example of a 15-mark question. So once again, if you hit the pause button, read through the item and then read through this 15-mark question. Now remember what I said about sticking to the question set. So with this question, it's important to make sure that you are writing about 2 specific agents of socialization, and really one of the agents of socialization that you should be discussing is the role of schools, because there's an instruction here that you've got to use the item. So don't forget to use the item for the 15 marker as well as the 5 marker. And notice this question's got a very specific focus. It's not on socialization generally, but it's about the impact or influence that socialization has on gender roles. So again, stick to the question set. So hit the pause button and read through the first section of an answer to this 15-mark question. And as you can see, the first section, the opening paragraph, defines the key terms that are used in the question. So the key terms that are used in this question that need to be defined are agencies of socialization and also the concept of gender roles. And then this paragraph focuses on one particular agent of socialization, the role of parents and families, and explains how that agent of socialization influences gender roles. And you should be able to see as you read through this very good use of terminology. So we've got reference to things like primary socialization, we've got this concept of canalization, we've got reference to verbal appellations, and we've got really good examples that are used to demonstrate understanding of these key ideas. And then hit the pause button and read through the final section of this student's answer. And this deals with another agent of socialisation. Remember, the question was asking you to focus on two agents, so it's not enough just to talk about the family. And sensibly, this candidate is focused on education because, of course, schools is the focus of the item, and you're expected to apply material from the item. And once again, there is relevant use of a range of sociological concepts such as norms and values, the concept of the hidden curriculum, the idea of secondary socialisation, the idea of role models and imitation, and examples are used throughout this paragraph to demonstrate understanding of these key concepts. And notice how there's a real focus on socialisation as it influences gender roles, so they've stuck to the question set. So I hope that this screencast has given you a clearer idea about the first section of the mock exam, and the second screencast will focus on the method section, the second section.